Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Richie and Pine. I would first like to apologize for the brief hiatus that we took this weekend. Friday and Saturday we didn't post a video. Both Richie and I have been pretty busy these past few days. We would just like to apologize for that, and we're hoping to get back on schedule here pretty soon. We're hoping to get the 6-day-a-week schedule going again, Monday through Saturday at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. But for this video, we're going to be discussing CDL LA, which is this weekend, March 7th and 8th in Los Angeles, California. So let's get straight into it with the groups.
So Group A, we have both LA teams. We got LA Gorillas and OG LA. Minnesota Roker and Seattle Surge are also a part of Group A. Group B, we have Atlanta FaZe, Dallas Empire, Florida Mutineers, and New York Subliners. Pine, what do you think about this first match that we got?
So the first match of day one is going to be the Atlanta FaZe versus the Florida Mutineers. This is a rematch from CDL Atlanta Finals. I do think there will be a lot of emotion in this rematch, especially for the Florida side, because they were on such a high coming through CDL Atlanta rather, that they were so confident in their ability and they were just running through everybody. And then they came up on Chicago and actually beat them, the unbeatable team. So I think, and then obviously turned around and got 3-0 swept by Atlanta. So I think Florida will do a little better in this match, but I don't think the outcome will be any different. I'm predicting a hot 3-0. What do you think about the next match?
So match 2 is Minnesota against Seattle. I think Minnesota is on fire right now. So I believe Minnesota is going to 3-0 Seattle. I just don't see any struggle in that match with them. Just simply for how well Minnesota's been playing as of late. What are we thinking about Game 3?
Game 3 is going to be the Dallas Empire versus the New York Subliners. I don't really have much to say about this because I haven't seen much play out of either of these teams. Dallas didn't play in Atlanta. They did play in London, ended up losing to Chicago, but I don't think they were at full potential there. I think Shotzi and Illy are still kind of getting used to playing this game. And also with New York, I don't think I've seen them play at all.
I don't think they've played since Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. Did they go?
They played in London.
Did they?
They didn't play in Atlanta. Yeah, I just didn't watch their match. I'm not too familiar with how they play. I do know that they have some pretty good players. I know that Zuma is on their team, and Zuma has made his way into the category of veteran in Call of Duty. I mean, this dude is every year it seems like he's in top of the game in the sub category. So I do think New York is a pretty good team, but I think that series will be 3-1 with Dallas winning. What do you think about match number 4 there, the Battle of LA?
Battle of LA. Man, it's gonna go to Game 5. It's gonna be 3-2. But I don't know who's gonna win. Like, these two teams are just not good. So
yeah, I think it should be called the Battle of the Shitters.
Right? I mean, they're both just buns, man. Like, I generally don't know who's gonna win. Like, I got no clue. But it's gonna go to 5 is my guess.
Yeah, I saw a stat earlier today on Twitter that said that OGLA are 3-12 in map count in tournament play this year, which is not what I would have guessed when looking at their roster before the season started. I figured these guys would have been a lot better, and we talk about it in every video because it is kind of an anomaly with as much talent as they got, how poor they've been playing. But I mean, it is pretty true.
I mean, yeah,
but
when you see their roster, I mean, if you simply go by roster, they should be top 3.
Oh, easily, yeah. But I do have a little note here that I saw on Twitter that Akes has actually been benched. Akes was he is still obviously a player for the Los Angeles Gorillas, one of the one of the greatest Call of Duty players in all time, if you ask me. He's kind of always been the villain in Call of Duty, but Aches is a winner at the end of the day, whether people like him or not. I'm not particularly a fan of his, but I do respect how the guy plays, and I do respect that he knows how to win. But he did actually get benched for they subbed in Blast, so that's telling me that that team's kind of lacking in chemistry if they're already going into substitutions. But I did also hear that Toronto dipped into their sub roster in Atlanta. That's why they took Chicago to 5 games. So it looks like a lot of these teams are actually starting to use substitutions like Richie and I had predicted that they would. But, I mean, I think if all these other teams are already stepping into their sub roster, I think OGLA might have to do the same if these guys like Quavo Kenny and TJ Haley don't start stepping up and doing something.
Yeah, I can totally see OGLA having to do something. I mean, we talked about in our last video, for all the names that these guys have, the way they're playing is just like, there's no excuse for the way they're playing for the names that they have on their roster. So they gotta dip into something, change something or else it's just gonna be a shit show the entire year, I feel like.
Yeah, they got to make something happen. I really hate to beat a dead horse, but like I said, we say it in every video, but something's got to change with that team. But moving on to the finals predictions. Richie, who do you have in the finals for CDL Los Angeles?
I have Atlanta versus Minnesota in the finals. Minnesota they're going to have a cakewalk through their group, I think. I mean, neither of the LA teams have been worth anything, so there's no competition for those two. So, I mean, maybe Seattle, maybe they push them in the first game. But that's like their only competition is Seattle, in my opinion, until they get to the finals, which I believe is going to be LA. But LA has a tougher group. They got to compete with Dallas and Florida. And the only
Atlanta, not LA.
Sorry, did I say LA? My bad.
Yeah,
yes, Atlanta is going to be in the finals. They have to compete with Dallas and Florida. The only reason I'm throwing Florida in there is because of their showing that they had at CDL Atlanta, where they reverse swept Chicago to make it to finals. And I mean, if you can reverse sweep anyone, to be honest, I mean, you're kind of playing well. And I mean, I think they're just going to ride the momentum, but they got to take down FaZe first. I mean, that's the first match of this event is the rematch, so we'll see how that goes. In order for it to go well, I think Pristini will have to play as well, if not better, than what he did at last event, and he was playing out of his mind, so he's going to have to pull something out that I don't know if he has the capability of doing. And as for Dallas, I mean, Dallas has had weeks to prepare for this event because they didn't play in Atlanta. So, I mean, Krim and Hook and Clay?
Yeah, Clay.
I mean, they're vets. They just got to step up in case Illy and Shotzi are underperforming again, which seems to be the case for all the events that they go to. So, I mean, I'm predicting Atlanta, Minnesota finals. Odds are Atlanta will probably win again. But at CDL Atlanta, Minnesota took the first 2 games in that series against Atlanta. So it's not impossible for Minnesota to take it this week. But I just got a feeling Atlanta's going to be the outcome, like overall winner of this event. What are you predicting?
Yeah, I kind of predict the same final, Minnesota versus Atlanta. Like you were saying, I think they're just going to breeze through their group. Not necessarily breeze through. I think they will struggle with Seattle. I do think if the veto system goes right for Seattle and they get the maps that they're comfortable with, they can take a respawn off of Minnesota. Minnesota's issue is that they start out kind of slow in respawns, especially hardpoint, because it takes a minute for their ARs like God RX and Assault. Those guys kind of take a minute to get warmed up. So Seattle could come out hot and take the first respawn, which is always hardpoint. But I definitely don't see Seattle even coming close to taking a search and destroy, especially with how well God RX has been playing as of late. Honestly, in the other group, Dallas is the only team I see putting up a fight against Atlanta. I think Clay and Krim, obviously two of the greatest to ever do it. They're always going to perform. But I'm not sure about Ilya and Shotzi. I haven't really been keeping up with them recently. I know they haven't been streaming their scrims. But, if those guys show up and perform, that may be a team that can contend with Atlanta since Chicago isn't at this event. But I do think that is the only other team here that can even come close to contending with Atlanta. If Ilya and Shotzi don't show up, though, I think that series is going to be ugly. But I would honestly like to see Dallas really take it to Atlanta I think everybody is excited to see Dallas actually play well because of all of the hype that was behind them early in the season and how much trash they were talking about, how good they were. And then, it just didn't translate. So there's kind of a backstory there where everybody knows that Dallas has a lot of potential because they were so good early on, but they just haven't shown it at LAN yet. So, I think more than likely the outcome is obviously going to be Atlanta wins this thing. But I do think that if Dallas shows up, they can take it to them. They might be able to pull it out, but I seriously doubt it. Most likely outcome, in my opinion, is a Minnesota-Atlanta final. And Atlanta's not dropping the first two maps this time. It's going to be a 3-1.
Man, why you gotta diss Minnesota like that, bro?
It's not a diss. It's just...
I know.
It's me being realistic,
I know.
man. Atlanta is almost unbeatable at this point.
I agree. Atlanta's tough.
But I do have to give props to Minnesota for taking those first two games on them. Honestly, when I was watching that live, I won't say I was nervous because I kind of wanted Minnesota to win, but it was almost like a spectacle to watch. It was I don't even know what to compare it to. There's no other underdog story that's happened recently that's like that at all in anything. It was like watching David beat Goliath. I thought that was what I was witnessing, and then obviously Goliath being Atlanta turned it around and kind of spanked their ass for them in the last 3 games.
Right.
But the first 2 were incredible games.
Well, yeah, for Minnesota to steal 2 respawn games, that's what they're better at, though, is respawn. But
the search and destroy was 6-4 as well. They almost had them.
Right.
It was so close.
They're going to be tough, I think, later on. They gotta find a clutch factor, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think they will also.
If their clutch factor's like 50%, they gotta boost that bitch up.
They'll come around. Like I said in the last video, I fully expect Minnesota to win at least one tournament this year, if not multiple. They have a very strong team. I expect them to do good things.
I do too. You got anything else to add to anything about anything?
Not really. I know after this event that the Chicago Huntsmen will be at the Dallas event, and I'm calling it.
That'll be a good one.
I'm calling it early right here. Dallas-Chicago finals. It's a hot 3-0. Chicago's busting that ass again.
Well, yeah, they're not going to put Dallas and Chicago in the same group. So,
no, of course they're not. They want that Dallas-Chicago final. But we'll save all those predictions for another video.
I agree. All right, guys. Thanks for watching another COD commentary podcast thing with Richie and Pine. Leave a like and a comment on this video if you want us to discuss anything else about anything involving Call of Duty. We'll discuss about it. Also, subscribe to the channel for videos 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. And ring that bell so you know whenever our videos go live. Anything else to add, Pine?
That's it for me.
All right.
Peace out, guys.
RichyandPine signing off.